Hey everybody, just some information and thoughts about what's going on right now in the media and the way everybody's being hyped up into a form of medical xenophobia to the extent that people freely and willingly submit to a form of medical martial law that then rapidly descends into military martial law. And with people being threatened, well, basically criminalised over an alleged new virus, which actually has been around since 2013, and well, I'll be sharing some information about that in another document. But for this, we're just going to focus on this really sad story about a groom who dies after a wedding in East India, and more than 110 guests contract coronavirus after the wedding. So I think the 26-year-old groom was suffering COVID symptoms when he got married in June, and he died 2 days later. Well, these COVID symptoms are very vague, and basically he could have had a common cold and died, but apparently no, he had coronavirus. And if what's going on in India is the same as what's going on in Britain and America and other Western nations, whereby everybody who's even suspected of having so much as a cold who dies is put on the COVID-19 death lists, and it seems that anybody can test positive for a coronavirus, being it does cover also common colds and flu, and nobody's really sure about what they're actually testing for, and it does appear that they're not actually testing for COVID-19 but for any sign of any coronavirus antibodies, and that would suggest a level of fraud, which is a crime. And then you need motive and intent, don't you? Well, the intent's there to control people, to vaccinate everybody. Maybe there's a motive, an agenda for depopulation. Who knows? There's profit motives with all the big pharma, because they've basically squeezed the market dry, as it were, as much as they can, and now perhaps the only way is to push forward with a massive depopulation agenda, perhaps through vaccinations and controlling people, driving people to suicide, killing off the elderly. You know, these are all agendas: power, money, ambitions to satisfy. So, you know, the media, being fully corporate, is also fully complicit, and whether that be wittingly or unwittingly, in terms of the journalists who just do the job and probably believe all the hype anyway, a lot of them. And so, you know, a groom dies and then suddenly everybody's being tested for COVID-19. So apparently he was suffering the symptoms, but the doctors are unable to, so the bride, neither the bride nor any of the groom's relatives tested positive for the disease. Doctors are unable to confirm whether the unnamed groom was the source of the infection, as he was cremated before tests could be carried out. So, you know, what did he actually die of then? He died at his home 2 days later. But no, there's no mention of what he actually died of, which surely they must have known. So therefore that is quite suspicious, the fact that they haven't listed what he actually died of, because if he died and then he was cremated, then surely there was some diagnosis as to what this man has died from. but instead, you know, I mean, this is in the Evening Standard. There's other stories, maybe they give a bit more information. But I find it strange that, you know, this is big news to the extent it's in the Evening Standard, and it's driving home just how terrible this coronavirus is. You know, a young groom, because 26-year-old, like really serious, and all those people suddenly have 110 guests, even though the groom, the bride, the family, none of them had any signs of it, but 110 guests apparently contracted coronavirus. But we don't know that the groom had coronavirus because he was cremated before he was tested, so we don't know what he died from, but we're led to assume that he died from the coronavirus. But very strange that none of his family or his bride or any of her family tested positive. So, you know, this is very strange, very sad. But this is from 2017. Groom dies of heart attack at wedding procession. And there's a number of these stories. Groom dies hours before his wedding. Looks like we have to accept. And this was from April 2012. And sorry the internet's so slow today. Husband finds his bride dead in bed the morning after wedding. That was 2016. And then we have this one, 2017. Groom dies of heart attack on his way to wedding venue. So, and that was 2017. And isn't it strange they use the same picture in the Evening Standard in 2020? The same image as the one used in 2017. So that is evidence of what is going on. That, look, you're being wound up, people, into medical xenophobia. And like I say, I'm going to share some important information soon, and I hope people will check it out. But please, please, be aware. Share the information. Be aware. Look, this is what you call Psy-Op. This is social engineering. This is xenophobia, medical xenophobia. Okay? And these stories are coming out just at a time that Leicester, a heavily populated Asian area, is being put under lockdown. Okay? Please be aware of what is going on. And just recently, HuffPost, I don't think I've got the report up now, but HuffPost has published an article about how the lockdown in Leicester is being used to, you know, well, basically, racial tensions are starting to erupt in Leicester against Asian people. Perhaps it's the source of the coronavirus now, and the reason why everybody in Leicester's locked down. So there's racial tension there's an impact of that as a result of this lockdown in Leicester. So please be aware. Social engineering, psyops, it's an attack. There's a war on for your mind, you know. Alex Jones, as crazy as and off the wall as he is, you know, he he was telling the truth there. There is a war on for your mind, for our minds. And this is a battle, people. And we are gonna have to stay strong. The people who have bought into the whole story, okay, you're not a fool for trusting, for believing. But when you present it with evidence, yes, it is hard to understand, like, look, exactly how off beam everything really is and where reality is. Okay, just get with the reality. There's a lot of people there waiting for us all. Okay, we are all in this together. Yes, we are all in this together, and the people imposing this xenophobia on us now, they're all in it together as well. They call themselves the coalition. Well, we're going to be the union, okay, a united humanity, because that's what it is going to take. And yes, we do need a lot of changes in every nation on this planet, the way we live. We do need drastic changes, and we are going to need to accept those. But those drastic changes can be a lot more favourable to life and to humanity on our planet when we, the people, get into reality and live with intelligence and compassion than anything the coalition could manage. And what they have in mind is actually, it is horror, really. Okay, so like I say, the information, well, the document I'm working on now, you know, will share a lot of information, like solid facts and evidence. But I'm sharing this, you know, I've made a lot of videos about COVID-19. Check them out. There's lots of information that I've shared, and lots of links, and sharing videos of other people that are covering it far better than I could. So do please, even if you don't watch my videos, check the links under the videos. But this is evidence. This is evidence of what is going on. And, you know, it's time to wake up and to really start asking questions. And, you know, this is just like maybe a little glimmer of light to some people that, yes, people die before weddings, after weddings. They have made the news stories, but this year it's being used for a particular reason, isn't it? To heighten the medical xenophobia, and also to influence racial tensions that are arising in Leicester, which is under lockdown because of this virus and the medical xenophobia around it. And these are very serious impacts. Very serious impacts on our lives as British citizens have happened this year. Damaging psychological impacts against our children, damaging impacts against the elderly. In fact, you could call it medical murder of the elderly. People denied treatments, people lost incomes, people lost businesses, relationships broke down, people have been murdered, people have committed suicide. Look, this has been dreadful, absolutely dreadful, and people left with fear of a virus, fear for the future, fear for their livelihoods. This is a war being waged against us, a war without bombs and bullets, but a war nonetheless, a war that threatens us with fines and prison and even mental institutions, that threatens us with total control. And we do need to stand up for our human rights, and knowledge is power, okay? And we need to understand that what's going on right now is, well, it is literally like a cartoon, in the sense that everything's been blown up out of all proportion. People have not been presented with the full facts and evidence, and people are falling victim to these type of stories, which are very, very sad and have made the news, as you can see, as I've shown in previous years. But nonetheless, these things happen, and it doesn't, you know, this year they've tied it to coronavirus, haven't they? And it's also tied to racial tensions in a city that's under lockdown for coronavirus. And very, very dubious that they use exactly the same picture as was used in 2017. I'm not saying the story isn't true. I believe that it is true. But what I'm saying is that this is being picked up on for a reason. India is a huge place. So, you know, it has a very large population. So, you know, if a groom's going to die, you know, let's focus, but look out for anybody dying before a wedding. Bang, the guests have all got it. Oh, we're going to have to ban weddings. It's to bring it home to the people of Leicester now, isn't it? The Asian community, that, oh no, you can't have, you're going to have to cancel your weddings. You're going to have to, no, you can't go to your mosques. You can't do this, you can't do that. And then on the other side, you know, non-Asian residents of Leicester are going to be like, oh, you know, this has probably come from the Asians then, because they all get together and have these big weddings, and they're always hanging around mosques together, and they've been spreading it. You see what I mean? This is exactly what is going on. Racial divides. Divide and rule is the game. We need to unite. We need to unite. And I hope the people of Leicester, in particular, will start picking up on the information. I'm going to leave Ryan, the Last American Vagabonds link, and a link from UK column under this video. And please watch those videos and just get informed. So, look, stay safe, everybody, and stay strong. And remember, the love will never leave us alone.